Hi, my name is Sylvia if you're new to this channel. I haven't posted in a long time. I've been feeling super overwhelmed with my life, a lot of uncertainty and sitting in a bit of negativity, and every time I try to record a 3-minute short, there's always something that I'm judging or that I feel like I'm not doing right. And that at first was registered by me as like, you should stop posting altogether. Now I'm wondering if that's unfair to me and what I need is maybe long form. Because I've been thinking a lot about this story that I have, something I went through in my mid-20s, and there's a lot of build up, but as some of you may know, I've spent the last year figuring out my nervous system. So there was like a police siren for the longest time, for like over a minute, and now it just stopped. I've been recovering my nervous system this last year, and one of the things that I noticed is that I never really gave myself opportunities to grieve. I was so eager to know what was going on, have the answer, know how to change, be resilient, and impatient to be in that next step, that I realized that there was a lot of grieving and, like, as cliche as it is, like shadow work to be done for me. And I feel like the siren is back. I feel like a lot of what sets me back and what holds me down is shame and grieving, and specifically rushing that process as opposed to accepting those things as a normal part of living, and to accepting those things as for what they are and not some indication of failure, instead of like grouping them all together. So this last few years I've had, I would call it a reckoning with a lot of my female relationships. Some of you know my mom and my family, but as well as some close girlfriends, girl groups that I've had, as well as my own best friend. And I feel this energy deep inside to be like, just resolve it, just go. You know, how much longer are you going to put up this wall? How much longer are you going to run away from this? And I kind of take that voice as there's something inside that wants to push me to do something, either decide that I'm, gonna put it to bed and not think about this, or do something about it, because I've been thinking about them a lot. And I also know that I enjoy thinking about people with ADHD. There's limerence where you're just kind of obsessed, but coming from the fact that I'm spiritual and love psychology even, right? I convince myself it's okay, but in actuality, what's happening is it's easy to think about other people and conflicts that you have with them. As crazy as that sounds, because it's all often like turmoil and like crazy feeling and loathy, but I think that I actually enjoy those conflicts because they're certain. I can project, or I can say whatever I want about what happened. And there is no other person to give me any feedback. So my mind can look at something that's super uncertain and paint some images and say these are most likely to be true. And because I don't have any more feedback, my brain almost like feels a little bit more comfortable in playing around with that, as opposed to wondering what I'm doing with my life. My career, I've been applying to jobs, they haven't been working, but also I haven't really been interested in them. I'm feeling disconnected with the career path that I have chosen. Asking myself what's wrong with me, or what can I do to change, or what happened in these instances that I feel as failure, and how could I turn that around? That's a lot harder to do, because when I do try to think about those things, I have, scars and inner child that feels rejected, and all this feedback that I have to mull through, that makes whatever I decided to put from certainty to uncertainty to certainty, right? Like creating a narrative, that narrative kind of breaks apart. And so my brain is left with more confusion. But I digress, right? I'm acknowledging to a certain extent that I do enjoy thinking about people conflict, because it's a lot easier than thinking about just myself and being in the difficult act, the difficult process of change. And so it's very interesting. But the story I wanted to talk about, I've been thinking a lot about grieving, about shame, as well as experiences in my life that I felt othered, specifically because I have been recently revisiting memories, and in light of my shadow, disconnecting what was my responsibility, what was someone else's responsibility, and what was just the circumstances of two people interacting. So this is just life, it's no one's responsibility. And a story keeps coming up that I've been wanting to share, and I'm just going to go into it. And if there's anything that you want to hear more about, let me know. In my mid-20s, around I think 26, 27, I was hospitalized. Half because it was my fault, half because of the psychiatric medical professional that I was trusting. I was messing with Xanax and benzos. I was on Adderall for ADHD. I was also on, at the time, Zoloft and Abilify, and we had just shifted to Wellbutrin that really was working but felt really different, and maybe in retrospect wasn't actually working. But I was self-medicating a lot, and there was a moment where I lost my Abilify prescription. It's a mood stabilizer. If you guys don't know of Taper Clinic with Dr. Joseph, please check it out, because it opened my mind to really the impact of Adderall and SSRIs and mood stabilizers on the long term of your brain, and really helped me recover how dumb and dull I felt for the last many years until recently. So it really helped me accept myself and not judge the mind fog that I was going through. So if any of you need that, please check it out. But so I was playing around with drugs and self-medicating, but I was also prescribed these really heavy antipsychotics, I believe, and psychiatric and mood stabilizers. And one day I lost one of, I think, the mood stabilizer, and my doctor just didn't give me a new script. And within 3 days, I lost my job, was self-medicating to the point where I was losing memory. And yeah, and when I ended up in the hospital, she was in a psychiatrist that was part of the hospital I was at, and she tried to convince the ER doctor that I had taken all my Abilify in order to abuse it, which is not possible, and tried to get them to pump my stomach, but the ER doctor decided not to. What put me in the hospital was a really bad acid, so please be careful. Again, this is in my mid-20s. I no longer do that stuff. Not judging if you do. I ended up in the hospital, and I was so afraid of everyone, my parents, the people at the hospital, the psychiatrists, even my best friends. I was afraid of a lot of people who were part of me being in the hospital. And I just went cold turkey off of all these antidepressants. It was the worst 8 months of my life. I would say worst year of my life. But the effects of the fog, the fatigue, the mental drain, my mood issues, all of that kept going for a few more years. But this was in the fall of 2016, I believe, and that summer was my 5-year milestone for alumni at my school, and my girlfriends wanted to go. And at the time, I really didn't want to go. I didn't want to be, college was very difficult for me because I was already dealing with a lot of these mental health issues then, and I just knuckled through, and I got through it, and I always felt like I failed a little bit. So there was a lot of things that I hadn't really processed and given myself the time to process. I had thrown myself into different fields, specifically the legal field that I was having a really, really horrible time in, and I just didn't want to go. Again, I was recovering from ending up in the hospital and from ripping myself away from SSRIs and mood stabilizers from not even tapering off. So I was in a very vulnerable state. I told my friends that I didn't want to go, but I gave them an excuse. I told them that I couldn't afford it. And the thing about using an impersonal thing like money is it feels a little bit more removed, but it's also easy for someone to be like, oh, okay, well, I have the money here. And that's basically what happened. And it felt like I couldn't say no. So I ended up there. And I felt very disconnected with a lot of people. I felt disconnected with certain people that I felt like should have heard me more when I told them the story. I'll come back to this on if it was their responsibility. Heard me more, but I was trying my best, and it was all of my closest friends. They were all there at the same time, and we go to this area where we used to have housing in our senior year, where there's like a courtyard, and we all get there, and on the ground is a paralyzed and dying squirrel. And I don't know, this probably happens everywhere. This is in the Northeast, but if you are in the Northeast, we have hawks and we have different huge birds, and they take their rodent prey up in the sky and they drop them. And either us being there spooked the bird, or the bird was waiting for it to die. I don't know, but there was just this dying squirrel, and our group sat like 10 feet away from this dying squirrel. And I just could not handle it. Ooh, burp. I could not handle it at all. I was like writhing out and in my victim state, right? Because of what I went through and the fact that I didn't recover my own safety. And then I half-heartedly tried to explain to my girlfriends what happened, and they also didn't take it seriously, right? Because I am also being half-hearted in the way I'm describing what happened. And so maybe it's that state, but I was like, why are we next to this squirrel? Like, we could be anywhere else in this courtyard. We don't have to be next to this dying squirrel. And like, is anyone else feeling how weird it is that we're sitting next to this dying squirrel? And like, I just wanted to kill it. Like, I thought about this story for years and years and years. And now, oh my God, we're going on 9 freaking years of this story where I'm like, should I have killed that squirrel? Like, should I have gotten a rock and put it out of its misery, right? Was that my responsibility? I felt responsible for that. Because for some reason, because I have hands and because I can think about death, I can make a decision to put something out of its misery. And I've been thinking about this a lot. First, I said to myself, you're thinking about this because you are the dying squirrel. You were the squirrel slowly dying as they just sat 10 feet away from you, not really regarding this, not really caring that you're slowly dying right in front of them. Kind of dramatic, right? So dramatic. Like, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what it is. I'm the victim, right? That also felt wrong. That felt weird. The other thing that I thought of was, oh, this was the memory that tells me I was different than my peers, right? That should have told me that there's something about me that's different, and maybe I shouldn't have tried further to connect deeper with these people. I shouldn't have held on so much. It should have been an indication to me, oh, you're different, move on. But I don't think it's any of those things. Today I realized that watching the squirrel die is like grieving. Because when you grieve, you want to change, you want to, but if this could have, maybe I could have. But there has to be some type of recognition that me, my ego, me as a person, don't have the right to do anything. And just because I can do something doesn't mean it's also the right thing to do. That as I think about these conflicts with the different women in my life, women that I value so much, women that when I look out, I'm like, wow, like, I'm so lucky to have been around them. But I don't know how to be safe around them just yet. And that's completely my responsibility. And everything in my being wants to say, well, if I'm responsible, I'm going to fix it. I just have to reach out to them. I have to try to fix it, you know? But sometimes, like, we have to get used to the grieving, the letting go of expectations, previous promises that we made, me too, That's why I want to do everything in my power to hold on, because I feel like I've done so much wrong. I just want to show them. But there was something wrong in our dynamic. And maybe why this story is so in my mind is because I have to get used to looking at the dying squirrel and letting nature take its course. Not feeling responsible just because I have hands that could pick up a rock and kill it. Not judging other people for their inability to, or their lack of impact by this dying thing. I'm not morally superior just because I see this dying entity and feel something, right? Maybe the act of grieving is being able to be around this dying squirrel and not react and accept that maybe you can't do anything, and we have to let life do its thing. Accept that my brain is not going to magically figure something new out just by tormenting myself with it. Accept this weird place I'm in where I can see everything I've done wrong. And not need someone else to validate that it's okay. That person is me. So for any of you who, I think I want to share this story because I feel this urge where I'm like, you gotta fix. But there's this whisper in me that's like, yo, like, temperance, like, temper yourself. You don't know enough to act here just yet. You are allowed to not think about other people. You're allowed to accept the uncertainty. You're allowed to feel small, but push yourself into abundance. You're allowed to hold the negative about yourself, but still celebrate all the amazing things about yourself that both could exist. Well, it's getting pretty long, so I'm gonna stop it there, but yeah, let me know if you like this. I just felt like sharing, and this feels more like myself. Okay,